Hello, my name is Julian and welcome to Station Road. Thank you for tuning in to my very first YouTube video. So to begin, what is my channel about and what do I hope to achieve from running this channel, and how might this channel be of benefit to you? To answer the first question, essentially this channel is about Station Road, which you'll be able to see behind me. An 00 gauge British Railway layout set in the early to mid 1960s. The main focus of this channel is to provide tips and tricks on how to model, looking at different products, materials, locomotive operation, locomotive types, you name it. I'm hoping to actually cover many different areas and facets of the model railway industry. It will be focused within the British Railways hemisphere and also in 00 gauge. Another main focus for this channel too is to show you guys how you can build a reasonably effective looking model railway but without breaking the bank. How to use materials or use alternate materials as opposed to maybe buying top off the shelf modelling products from your local model store. So I'm a keen believer in the reappropriation of materials and items. So I'll try to actually cover a lot of that kind of more innovative, I'll say innovative model railroading, so that it gives you some options out there, as well as actually looking at some of the specific model railway materials that you can purchase. I hope to also I guess another key component to the channel is also actually to source your advice on modelling. I quite keenly watch some other channels, and to reference some, there would be Chadwick Model Railway and Junction, both UK based. And I will put links to their channels in the description. And I find that I get a huge amount of value out of their videos and tutorials and the like. So my aim is to do the same to a degree, but in the same way also to see what you guys think. See what kind of advice do you have, and is there better ways of doing things, and so forth. I will not profess to be an expert model railroad person, as it's something that, like a lot of things, that it develops and grows the more and more you work at it. So you would have seen from my very first video I actually posted, which doesn't actually feature me in it, but was back, it was compiled from some footage I took 5 years ago when this layout first began, and as you'll see, you'll look at it and go, crikey, that's pretty shocking. It's some track on a piece of wood. So and back then, I didn't have a huge amount of time or money to invest in the layout. So it's only in the last maybe few years since I've actually been you know, running my own business and working from home, that I've had actually more opportunity to spend time working with the model railway and therefore thus actually improving my model making skills. And that just takes time, but it's a huge amount of fun, and I really enjoy it. So I'll break this down into a couple of sections in terms of you know, a bit later in this video I'll do an introduction on the layout, and we'll do a bit of a walkthrough so you can sort of get a general idea of what's happening with this, and I'll also sort of give you a bit of a teaser into potentially the kind of topics that I might be discussing in future videos. And of course one of them really is this reappropriation of materials, which I'm a very keen advocate of. And I've got a few things here that I'll actually show you. So like for example, this could be useful, and it's extremely useful. It is a dishcloth. I'm not sure this is available here in New Zealand. It's Chucks. I'm not sure where it's available in other countries around the world, but it's a sort of a synthetic fluffy dishcloth, and of course you know, it's been great. So these are quite useful. This is some very cheap artist chalk pastels, which combine this with a second-hand coffee blender, and you have weathering powders. Another very useful tool that I use, toothbrush. That will come in to feature in probably quite a few videos, the toothbrush. We have here, now I'm not sure, I know this is available in Australia and New Zealand. This is Barocca. I'm not sure whether you can get it anywhere else. I know it's not available in the States, but it is, I have one of these every day. It is a vitamin supplement, which I have every morning. They are vital for any model railroading because they give you, of course, the energy and so forth, but then the tube, once you finish these, is brilliant. And I'll show you in another video how useful these tubes can be. Along with the dishcloth, which I showed you earlier, we have some test pots of paint, which I'm sure you can get from any paint shop or hardware store. That, with the dishcloth and toothbrush, comes in handy. Another one here, which I thought, this is something, I mean, this is a you know, professional Woodland Scenics easy water, which is going to be used. I haven't used it yet, and I thought I'd give this a go as opposed to actually using a two-mix resin. And that will be another video there because I have a reservoir that I've got to fill in, and I'd be interested to know if anyone else has actually used this, and what they think of it, which is you essentially you melt these resin beads in a pot and simply pour it in. I'd be interested to know if anyone has used these and what they think of them. So yeah, there'll be videos of all that sort of type of nature, and I guess the final thing I'd like to say is sort of which is really the focus of this video, or this channel, I guess, in a lot of ways, is to do with where I place myself in terms of railway modelling, because I kind of feel like there's several categories. So there's the exhibition layouts, and they look absolutely stunning. The detail in them is just extraordinary, to the point almost where I have, you know, people take photographs of them and you could swear it was real life, and they just look amazing. One day I would love to do a small exhibition layout on that nature, and to the with detail to the nth degree. This layout is not that, and it's in no way is it going to pretend to be that. It is, but then it's not at the other end of the scale, which is more kind of, like the kids layout, or maybe the family layout, which is more about just sheer entertainment and watching trains going around and you know, things like that. So this is kind of in between those two spectrums. It's kind of evolved, I guess. It's slowly climbing up the ladder a bit of realism and so forth. But I will say that when we do a tour of this layout, that there is probably not a single part on this layout that's actually complete. So bear that in mind. If people, you know, if people were leaving comments and saying, well, you know, you could have done this or you could have done that, bear in mind it's actually not complete. So it could well be, you know, things that are missing. But in saying that, I would love to hear from you guys about, you know, your ideas, your thoughts. You know, if you see something and go, you know what would look really great there, would be such and such. I would love to hear from you. It would be good to sort of hear those things. Yeah. So I guess without further ado, I will give you the guided tour. Right. Well, let's introduce the layout. As you can see, it is a rather compact layout, simply because really I'm limited to space. Although this is a double garage, I think my partner would divorce me, even though we're not married, would leave if I took over this entire garage. Essentially, as you can see from here, it is a L-shaped layout, so that's sort of the rough layout of it. I'll put this on the descriptions, so if you wanted to view the dimensions as such, but essentially we have 10 foot this way and roughly 9 foot that way. Essentially the layout is it's a up-down line continuous run track that's kind of, it's a little bit like a double figure eight, because the original layout was a figure eight, so the track just simply runs around. It used to, and that was it. It now, with the extension behind me, and I'll go into more detail about the layout and everything, crosses over the lower level, goes around, crosses back over the lower level again, and then loops back around and then comes back under. So it is kind of like a bit of DNA spiral, but and essentially it's given me the opportunity to sort of add in all sorts of different zones. So we have a rural scene here, which then sort of shifts into kind of outskirts, possibly country sort of village or town, shifting through into a sort of an industrial area, but and you might think, well, that church is kind of sandwiched in to and surrounded by industrial, but the back scene will be sort of residential, terraced houses maybe on the back scene, so that'll sort of give you the indication. And of course there's a bridge that'll lead you out that way, and then this more into industrial, and then maybe this goes into more of a built up town scene in through here. So you know, there are some one of the things I need to sort of point out is nothing is ever finished on this layout. So when you have a look at this, you'll sort of think, well, why are there no trees, or where's the hedges? Why is there no ballast on the tracks? I'll focus on one area and complete it to a degree before I somehow get diverted off into another area. So reasons for certain things are, for example, trees, apart from the odd one here and there, is they're in the way when I'm working on the layout, so it's just easier to not have them at the moment, and they will probably be one of the last things I actually add to this layout. Again, the ballast. Okay, I did a little bit here, which is more of an experiment to see how it would go and how it would look. I'm kind of reluctant to start ballasting because I have a habit of suddenly changing my my track. So while it's not ballasted, it's easy to change things and so forth. Like, for example, I've still yet to put where we've got point motors in most of the section here, but I've still got more point motors to add in. There's point motors to add in over here and so forth. So but I've started there. I haven't even wired them up yet. Like I've got the drop wires, but I haven't actually hooked it up to a control panel I have here. So there's all sorts of sort of half-finished projects. But that's what I love about this model railway. That's what I love about model railway modelling is that there's just so many different things that you can suddenly switch from going from weathering to electronics and wiring. So it's it's a great hobby. I'll say that. In terms of train operation, it was an analog. I have converted over to DCC, which is just brilliant because it's just saved me a whole heap of isolating track and so forth. So the everything is run on the Hornby Elite, and I've chosen that because it's cheaper, and it's kind of is DCC for dummies really, and so it just works for me. That'll be another thing I'll actually say really, and this is actually probably one of the key components which I'll reiterate, is that this is model railroading on a budget. So how to effectively come up with some great looking things and great models and without blowing your budget. Hence the Hornby Dakota as opposed to some of the more expensive DCC systems that are actually out there. Saying that, the Hornby can be expanded. I'm thinking maybe further down the track I will link it to a PC. So that I can run the Hornby software. So in terms of train operation, we've got two continuous loops, so we could have two trains running up and down. There's a set of there's some yards here that can have some small shunting operations that can be performed in here. Not a huge amount because just the way the track's laid out, and I just simply kind of there are aspects to the track plan that I wish I had done that. For example, to be honest, I wish I had a third line running around there as a separate line to sort of link these two shunting areas almost as an end-to-end operation. But the space just doesn't allow it. There's sort of some more sidings here for more sort of minor shunting operations. So essentially I could have two trains running and have some various sort of shunting operations going on. Well, that concludes part one of the layout tour because I realised that this footage is getting rather long. So part two will be the walkthrough, which will come up next. Thank you.